Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with a Corki updated complete guide for patch 3.3, not 3.3, 3.2 onwards, but we're almost at patch 3.3 already. Now we're on, currently when I'm recording this, it's on patch 3.2b, but I think that by the time this releases, it's going to be patch 3.2c, if there even is a 3.2c, or if not, it'll be 3.3, but regardless, probably nothing too much is going to change about Corki in that patch, hopefully, or his items, hopefully. So I hope that I don't record this for nothing. So anyways, Corki pretty much is going to be one of your best AP options in the bot lane if your team does not have any AP in the team. Now, really common that you have an AD jungler, an AD top, and sometimes you have an AD mid. So if you need AP and your support isn't AP, which support shouldn't be unless they're playing a carry support, you're going to need to take AP. So it's either going to be Corki or pretty much something like a Ziggs or an Orianna pretty much are your best options. So personally, my favorite is Corki because Corki has the most similar playstyle to ADC compared to like a mage. That's why I pretty much like Corki. But anyways, this being an updated complete guide, I will as usual link the original complete guide up in the cards above for you to refer to the skills and the leveling order so that we don't have to waste too much time covering that, and we can actually jump straight into the build runes and spells. But before we jump into the build runes and spells, I want to cover something really important. If you guys notice, Corki's passive does scale with AD, so his hextech munitions, the attacks deal 11 physical damage and 42 magic damage. Now, this basically means he deals 80% AP and 20% AD. But if you notice, they both scale with AD. And if you take a look at this, it scales with both AD and AP, but scales better with AD. On his W, it scales with AP, but on the package, it scales with 150% bonus AD and 20% AP only. On his E, you scale with AD, and on your ultimate, you scale with both AD and AP, but you have better AD scaling. Now, what does this mean? This means that Corki builds AD because he scales way better with AD than AP. But if you take a look, here he does magic damage on ultimate. He does both magic and physical on his Gatling gun. He deals magic damage on his Valkyrie, and he deals magic damage with his Phosphorus Bomb. And his basic attacks deal 80% magic damage and 20% physical damage. So this means Corki builds AD, as you guys can see from this build, but he deals AP. So what is the implications of this before we move on to the actual build and items? The implications of this is that you cannot take items that give you, or runes that give you selective lifesteal. For example, Hunter Vampirism. If you take a look, you gain either physical vamp or magic vamp. Since you're building AD, you're going to be getting physical vamp. However, because you're only doing 20% physical damage with your basic attacks and all your abilities do magic damage, this isn't going to actually help you lifesteal at all. Now, the same concept applies for something like not the Gluttonous Greaves actually, because Gluttonous Greaves actually gives both. But the same concept applies for something like a Bloodthirster, which gives you physical vamp. It's not really going to work because you're going to be dealing mainly AP damage. Same goes for something like the Blade of the Rune King, so that doesn't work at all. So if you need to ever get like lifesteal if you're on a Corki, what you want to actually build is these Hextech Gunblade, because Hextech Gunblade actually gives magic vamp and is the only item in the game to give you magic vamp aside from the Gluttonous Greaves. But if you need lifesteal, or rather vamp, you want to build Hextech Gunblade. So that is a misconception about Corki that a lot of people have, including me. Like, I used to take Hunter Vampirism on Corki before I realized that actually it didn't actually even work and the lifesteal was pretty negligible. So that's when I finally figured it out that that was the reason why. So anyway, we're going to jump into the actual build itself. So this is where is it? This is the Hulkbreaker build that I recently covered. So if you want to know more about this build, you can check out the supplementary guide I did on that. And this is the auto attack, not auto attack. I named it auto attack, but this is the build that doesn't have the mana mune. So I've tried this build. But instead of going for the Stormrazor, I instead went for Essence Weaver. So I've tried this build. And then we have, of course, covered this build before, but Stormrazor was Essence Weaver. Now, after testing the Hulkbreaker build, the two versions of this build, and the two versions of the build without Manamune, I've concluded that the Manamune build with the Stormrazor is the best build. Now, why is that the case? Honestly, Essence Reaver is a really horrible item at the moment. Like, I was thinking of taking Essence Reaver on champions like Corki or Lucian, but really, just because Stormrazor is so good, really Essence Reaver is just not so good. Because the first difference is the cost. Like, this is 3100, and Essence Reaver is 3250. Now 150 gold might seem like a very little difference, but this can and will often make the difference about whether you can get it before the first dragon / hero fight or not. So that's a major deal. And aside from that, the Essence Reaver just feels so weak, like in a sense that it just doesn't feel like it helps your damage a lot. And with the Stormrazor, Corki is generally not an auto attack focused champion. He's more of a spellcaster champion, but with this, it really makes your auto attacks pretty strong as well. So Corki sort of has, I wouldn't say a really new playstyle, because you always played like that anyway. You always cast auto attacks in between attacking anyway, but this sort of makes your auto attacks stronger. So anyways, let's get into the actual explanation for the rest of the items, runes, and spells. So first up, we have the Manamune. So Manamune obviously mainly gives you the mana. Of course, gives you the AD and ability haste as well. And when you evolve it into Mirror Mana, it resolves all your mana issues. And aside from that, it also makes your on-hit really strong. So when you hit outs on people, they're actually going to be doing a lot more damage than if you don't have the Manamune, which is why I feel Manamune is absolutely essential for Corki, because of the mana and because of the on-hit damage on your ultimate. I think you always got to go for Manamune. Next, you go for Stormrazor. It gives you attack damage, which you love, crit rate, which you love, attack speed, which not really the most helpful, but still helps when you are auto-attacking in between casting spells, and gives you that slow as well when you cast your energized auto-attack. Next up, your boots. You go for either Ionian Boots of Lucidity, or you can go for one of the defensive boots. Now, technically speaking, Gluttonous Greaves kind of does actually work out because you do get both physical and magical vamp, but I just don't really like it. I feel like the healing isn't really noticeable for Corki for some reason, so I normally rather take one of the other boots anyways. Then we go into the IE, more damage, more crit damage, pretty self-explanatory. Then we go for Slurry Charge Blade, which Corki is one of the few champions remaining that still want to take Charge Blade. So you of course build it as your second last item. It gives you the crit rate, putting you at 75% crit. Gives you the attack speed, which as I said doesn't benefit too much, but you get the ability haste and the passive. So the passive, obviously, whenever you cast an ability, it gives you a stack of radiance, and when you attack, it deals on-hit magic damage, which is in addition to Corki's magic damage, and that magic damage can also critically strike. So that's going to give you a whole ton of damage, and yeah, pretty much just going to boost your damage by a whole lot. Now this leads you to a problem, because you only have one item slot left, and you still have to build GA, and you still have to build Void Staff. So really, it kind of depends on the match, which one you want to go for. Generally, I always recommend to go for a GA first, because generally Corki always dives into the enemy team with his package, so you're going to need something like Stasis and GA to sort of survive, because you get blown up really easily. And then when your GA is down, you can then opt into the Void Staff over here to get yourself the magic penetration. So we're going to briefly cover some other items that Corki can build, and honestly there aren't too many. Now we've gone over how Black Cleaver works in the Hulkbreaker Corki video. Triforce also works really well because of the Spell Blade, and this used to be a core item for Corki, but now the crit build is simply better at the moment. Now I could see like something like a Manamune Triforce build sort of actually working, but no one really does it, because probably because Triforce is really expensive and the crit build just gives you more value overall. Maw works against magic damage heavy teams, so you do want to build Maw if there's a lot of magic damage, or at least get the Hex Drinker, which is this early on. Of course, we covered Essence Reaver does actually work as a Corki item, but just that I don't really recommend it personally. Yeah, then we have Divine Sunder, which is pretty much the more defensive version of the Triforce. Spellblade works really well on Corki. We covered that in the Hullbreaker build, as I mentioned. So as I mentioned just now already, we do have the Hextech Gunblade for the lifesteal, and pretty much Corki technically can up into Crystalline Reflector and Banshee as well if you really want to, but it's not very common to do so. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Corki's build. So Corki's runes. First up, you go for Conqueror because it's pretty much the best rune for Corki. You can stack it really easily and gives you a lot more damage output. So we've already covered why we don't take Hunter Vampirism, and without that, basically your only other options are Triumph. And Gathering Storm doesn't work as well for the same reason as Hunter Vampirism, by the way. So your real options are Triumph, Brutal, and Champion. I see a lot of people take Brutal, but personally I don't like it because it kind of falls off. So I like to go for Triumph. But Champion is also there if you are a little bit more of a risky player and you think you're not going to die. I used to actually take Champion a lot on Corki, but I realized that I actually die quite a bit on Corki, so I decided to go for Triumph instead. So here, as usual, it's between Hunter Titan, the Bone Plating, as well as the Nullifying Orb. So Nullifying Orb, of course, really helpful in lane. But I personally like to take the Hunter Titan because I find that when you package in, sometimes you get CC'd, and this is really going to help with that. And here you don't actually need Mana Flow Ban because you already have the Mana Mune, so this time you can actually opt into taking the Hunter Genius instead for even more ability haste to get your abilities off cooldown even more, to spam them even more. So spells, obviously you go for Flash and you go for Exhaust, pretty self-explanatory. So anyways, with all that out of the way, we can actually finally jump into the gameplay itself. Alright, so now moving on to the gameplay. As you guys can see, the first up, oh actually before that, as usual when you get to this section of the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And any questions, queries, remarks, don't forget to leave them in the comments below, and I will of course respond to them, address them, like them, etc. So, or rather, heart them, I guess I could say. So anyways, if you take a look at the team comp, we have Set, we have Zed, and we have Amumu. So Set and Zed, obviously they are both gonna be AD. Amumu is building tanky, so he doesn't have too much AP damage. Seraphine is building support, so she doesn't have too much AP damage as well. So in this case, I'm gonna be the main damage dealer. Now, Alistar, by the way, you saw, if you saw that, you can rewind by like 5 seconds. He's trying to hide in the bush, but his passive did trigger on Xayah, so it's really obvious that he's actually in the bush. So if you're an Alistar player, you know, you can get yourself revealed in that way. So here, Alistar's level 1 is very easy to abuse, and Xayah's level 1 as well. So, because Xayah doesn't have the pullback on level 1, so here we are able to pretty much abuse their level 1 to sort of chunk them out. Now here I kind of trying to bait Alistar engage, which he does, because Xayah isn't quite close enough to follow up. So here I get the exhaust on the Xayah, but unfortunately walk over the feathers, and I do actually get caught out. Xayah takes a whole chunk of damage from both my Q as well as Seraphine's passive, and is left at 1 HP. So she's gonna have to pop, I think she's gonna have to pop the fruit and take that. And Alistar is really low as well. As you guys can see, they're both pretty low. Of course, on the flip side, I'm pretty low as well because I've been taking a whole ton of minion aggro. But Set draws First Blood, which is amazing for my team. Alistar and Xayah are pretty much trapped over there. We can see Amumu pretty much invading the enemy blue buff, so we do know that the enemy jungle isn't quite anywhere nearby. Amumu is trying to go for a dive, so we're trying to push in the wave, but he gets very impatient and doesn't actually wait for the wave, and he actually just goes in and dies. We do get the kill though, but we end up trading 1 for 1. This could easily be a 2 for 0 if he let the wave come in, because the wave will take tower aggro. He could easily walk up and actually just get the kill in that way. But either way, Seraphine makes it more worth for us by walking past the tower and killing the Xayah, so that makes it a 2 for 1. So overall we come out on top of that. In addition, we clear the wave, and we also pick up a tower plate as Alistar just walks back into the lane. So we've pretty much done what we can. Now, as you guys can see, I have no mana left. That's because I started off with the longsword so that we have more dueling power in lane. So now I'm gonna back. I'm gonna get myself the tier. So after I get the tier, the mana issues should be, I wouldn't say resolved, but I would say should be lessened by a significant amount, because with the tier we do have quite a lot of bonus mana. So Corki, when you go for this Mana Mune build, which I think is less popular than just going for the full on crit build, he does take longer to scale, obviously, because you do need time to stack the Mana Mune to get the Mirror Mana, and you really only have a full item when you have the Mirror Mana. Like, Mana Mune is like half an item. So it does, you are a little bit weaker in the early game in terms of your raw damage. Of course, if you have the package, you're still going to be absolutely insane with the package. I think Corki, the best part about Corki is his package. His package just does so much work. And yeah, so here, Alistar does engage onto Seraphine. Seraphine's level 5, Xayah's level 5 as well, and so am I. Alistar not quite level 5 though. We bait out the Xayah ultimate, so Xayah no more ultimate. A lot of Zaya's safety is gone because of that, because of using that ultimate. She still has both sums though, and enemy team actually has all their sums, and Seraphine actually does end up dying for our over-aggression. Alistar does a lot more damage than what we thought there, and Alistar is popping his ult, so I can't really do too much damage to him, so I'm just gonna back off and I'm gonna eat the fruit, wait for them to kind of push in, which is not happening, and I'm just gonna take the CS. So here Seraphine is respawned, she's walking back to lane, and here I'm just trying to stop the Alistar and the Xayah from backing, because when Seraphine comes back, we can actually try to pick a fight. You can see here that I've already chunked Alistar a decent amount, but Alistar's heal does proc, and the heal actually after the buff deals a pretty chunky amount, and here again disrupting Alistar's back. I'm trying to allow Seraphine to do something, and Zed actually comes all the way off the roam on mid. Seraphine charm into Xayah, and I snipe her out with the big one, which is the empowered ultimate rocket, and Zed does get the dive onto the Alistar. I think he kind of ulted the wrong person there. He obviously should have been ulting the Xayah, but here Akali's coming in off the roam, so I'm trying to run away, but she's warding, so I decide to instead walk toward my team for them to back me up, and I actually die to the ignite and the minion aggro. I think if the minions weren't there, I still die to the ignite anyway, so I don't think there's any way I'm possibly getting out of that one. But yeah, so this Amumu really aggressive, going for his second invade onto the enemy blue buff, but he does get spotted out by Alistar and wisely backs away. Now this actually allows me to not go back, but off the death I can actually get my mana mune and actually pick up the package as we go for the dragon. So Amumu did type in chat that he wanted to go for dragon, so I'm pinging that I'm on my way to the dragon and I do have my package. So after I died, not after I died actually, before that I think, we did actually pick up the bot lane tower already, so we're just trying to clear out the wave here. Alistar headbutts me away from the bush, but nothing too much comes of it. Here we're basically chunking out the enemy Master Yi, who's the jungler. I go in with the package, and Master Yi walks onto the package and simply just dies. Alistar is walking onto the package now, and he has his ult on, so he's not taking too much damage, but with Master Yi out of the picture, this should be a really easy dragon take, because we do of course have the smite, whereas their team does not. So easy dragon take from the Amumu, and here I'm just going to rotate back over to the bot lane and pick up that CS before I can rotate to other areas of the map. Remember to always push out your lane and collect the CS before you move on to other areas of the map. So here I'm just going to take the enemy fruit and clear out the next wave as well to allow my wave to actually push all the way into tier 2 enemy tower. In the meantime, Amumu is actually taking the Rift Herald, and I'm simply just going to rotate on over, so this forces the Xayah to actually respond there. Alistar with the headbutt pulverize combo actually takes out like 1/3 of my health. So Alistar, for some reason Alistar damage is actually a lot higher than what I'm expecting in my mind. But anyways, no follow-up from the enemy team, so I'm pretty safe there. I'm just going to take the Krugs since there is time to do so. And then I'm just going to pick up this fruit and rotate back over to clear out the next wave, and then I can either rotate or I can recall. So here I'm being a little bit cautious because I don't know if like Alistar is waiting in the bush or anything, but here after finally picking up the Krugs and the wave, I finally have enough gold to pick up the Storm Razor, so I'm gonna back. Actually, I don't have enough gold to pick up the Storm Razor, I have enough gold to pick up a BF sword. So I'm gonna back and pick up my BF sword. I'm gonna rotate on over to mid. As you guys can see, the bot wave is pushed all the way in. Fight kind of breaking out in mid already before I reach there. Seraphine out goes through onto Akali and Darius, and I'm trying to Valkyrie forward to join the fight, but no such luck. So instead, we're just going to take the mid tower as a 5-man unit. Xayah rotates over already from the bot lane. Rift Herald is summoned by the Amumu, and here we're going to just try to siege the second tier mid lane tower. Like so, with all 5 people. Alistar tries to go in, doesn't really quite work out. Amumu actually goes in, hits a huge ultimate, and I'm launching my AoE ultimate as well to combo. Zed combos the AoE as well, and we pretty much wipe out like 4 members of the enemy team at once. Only the Darius is left, and he's a sitting duck. He gets in the hook. Seraphine's tanking the tower while we actually pick up the kill on Darius. She resets the aggro, and we pretty much got the kill. So here we run out of minions, so we're gonna have to just back off, but Set didn't quite get the memo, and he decides to try to get the inhibitor tower, but he dies because of that. And I think that if he stayed and all 5 of us attacked the tower, we could have gotten it, but everybody was already backing away, so Set doing that was not really the optimal move there, because everybody clearly didn't actually want to force the tower. because the whole enemy team was respawning. So because of that, Zed does die. This leads to a transition where Akali goes in, Seraphine dies as well. So a little bit of a miscommunication on my team, but sometimes that does happen. So that is that. So Amumu, of course, he's building tank. So he does AP, so I'm gonna take the red buff. Now I also do AP, but I'm definitely gonna benefit the most from the red buff in this particular team because I do have the most DPS. So here Amumu is actually trying, not Amumu, Master Yi is actually trying to get our bot lane tower. So I'm just gonna rotate over to the bot lane tower and defend. Zed is also on the way, so I see Zed coming. I'm gonna ignore the minions and just walk over to help him out. Master Yi actually chunks the Zed. I'm gonna have to hit the exhaust on the Master Yi so that he doesn't actually end up killing the Zed. So do end up using the exhaust to save the Zed there. We're gonna clear out the next wave and then we can recall. Let's pretend we didn't see that ultimate going past the minions. But yeah, so here we're just gonna recall and we're gonna pick up our stasis, I believe. So stasis is really important of an enchant for Corki, because Corki generally packages in and he wants the stasis immediately so that he can buy time for his team to come over and back him up. Pretty much, I don't think I've ever bought anything aside from stasis on Corki ever. I never even go for QSS or anything like that. I think stasis is always the way to go on Corki. So here, just gonna clear out the mid lane, and we can see that my team is actually pushing in the top lane. Master Yi is sort of trying to respond, and here I'm coming over with the package, and we're gonna see if I can actually try to do anything about it. So here, enemy red buff is up. I already have a red buff, so I don't necessarily need it, but I still want to deny the enemies. Here I see an opportunity to package across like 3 people of the enemy team. I burst down the Master Yi pretty much immediately. Darius kind of gets caught by the Set. Set's really low, but he does survive, and we do get the kill onto the Darius. Enemy control ward in the bush, and we're just going to remove the control ward and steal the red buff from the enemy team. I'm going to let Amumu have it. He smited it anyway, so I'm not like I was going to get it. But actually my red buff does expire, so maybe I should try to take it there. But honestly, Amumu smited, so I was never getting that. So here we're going to actually go for the Rift Herald, which I actually managed to pick up by hitting the eye of the Herald, giving me the Empowered Recall to actually just go ahead and get back faster to the base and pick up my BF Sword. It's alright in this case for me to take Herald because it's the second Herald, so it's a lot easier for me to place it where I can. If it's the first Herald, I generally always recommend to give it to the jungler, because everybody's going to go back to lane and no one is really rotating around the map, so you can only use it in your own lane and not anywhere on the map. Either way, here another fight breaks out. We kill the Alistar, we kill the Darius as well, and Master Yi now on the run. I try to exhaust him to slow him down, but he does ult to remove the slow, so he didn't have to waste his ult there to escape. But yeah, it's alright that I have Herald now, because now, as you guys can see, you're in the like, mid-game where everybody's rotating everywhere, so you do have the freedom to really put the Herald where you want to. So here in this case, I'm going to choose to try to target that tower in front of me in the bot lane. So I'm actually pinging that tower, and I'm pinging my Eye of the Herald so that I can let my team know what I'm planning. So here I'm just going to put down the Herald, and I'm going to just try to get this tower. Now I don't actually manage to get this tower low enough for the Herald to finish off before Darius and Alistar comes in. Here I'm still trying to get the tower, but I do end up accidentally aggroing Darius and getting hooked in. So here I'm going to flash the wall so that Akali doesn't actually engage on me. She flashes the wall as well, ults me, auto attack, and I stasis to survive a bit longer. Amumu stun comes in. I actually managed to barely kill the Akali before I die myself. Honestly, that was a super duper close call. I don't quite know how I lived there, but I did. So here we're gonna take the IE. So we are at 3 items, pretty strong at this current stage of the game. And Seraphine does eventually manage to finish off the tower together with the help of Amumu and Zed. In the meanwhile, Set actually takes the top lane tower as well. Mid lane tower is, as we know, like about 1 HP at the moment. So I'm gonna go back to taking the red buff. We're gonna also take the Raptors, and why not, while we're at it, also take the Krugs. As you know, as the ADC, always take whatever farm you can get. So we're just gonna pretty much clear the entire red side jungle of Amumu, and here we can see a fight breaking out at the top lane. So I'm trying to get myself there as fast as possible to help out my team. Set does get shut down by the Akali, and the fight is still ongoing. Seraphine ults across the team. I contribute 1 rocket to the Alistar to get the assist, and my team manages to pretty much finish off everything. So here The mid lane tower is still 1 HP, and I can pretty much just walk in there to actually kill the mid lane tower. I don't actually even need the minions, but I'm just going to clear the minions for the CS, and I'm a little bit too impatient to wait for the minions. I'm just going to walk in and auto-attack the tower twice to get the tower, and then we're going to go top where there's another tower to be taken. And actually, we're not going to go top, we're going to just get a little bit of damage in onto the base before the enemy team respawns. Now we're going to have to run away. Now, that was a big mistake because Darius has Dead Man's Plate, and I can't actually outrun the Darius. He Dead Man's Plate forward, Protobelt forward, sorry, hooks me in and just kills me. And Seraphine now in trouble as well, sidesteps the Akali and flashes the Darius, and Darius actually ults the wrong guy. He ults the Set instead of the Seraphine, so he doesn't have ult anymore. Set actually goes in. As you can see, he's really tanky because he's really fat. Zed goes in for the assassinate, but does get killed by the Darius. 3-man Seraphine ultimate and 4-man Amumu ultimate does kind of save the fight for our team. Set gets a triple kill just based off how fat he is. I think that if he wasn't so fat, he would have very easily died like twice over here, but he does actually manage to get the kill because of how fat he is. And with that, that brings us to the end of the game. I just respawned, and no point in looking at me. We're just gonna look at my team, finish off the game, and there we have it. That is the Corki updated complete guide. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and learned something from it. I'm gonna leave you guys with the stats as usual, so thank you so much for watching the video, guys, and goodbye.